The mark of the beast is already in place. I don't believe that we'll ever see um, an implant chip or a card or some kind of stamp on the forehead, because I don't think that those things are necessary. I think that the way the system is set up right now, there are plenty of um, provision to keep people from buying and selling. You have to have a social security card to have a bank account. If you pull yourself out of Babylon, out of this political and economic and religious system that serves the devil, then you walk away from all the things that you need to enter into that system and buy and sell. You no longer use a social security number. I don't. I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't, and I haven't had to since I've been trusting God. I haven't had to for a long time. There's a false awakening. Mainstream media, for the most part, feeds the contented herd of state worshippers, people who look to the government for solutions. Even if they pray for their leaders, their inability to see that none of this serves the interests of Christ, this has nothing to do with God and His kingdom, and they still pray for it. The mainstream media feeds the contented herd of state worshippers with all the information and stuff that makes them feel like they know what's going on in the world. And there's an alternative media out there that is feeding the innate hostilities of people who are fed up with being put down, treated unfairly, sick and tired of government abuses, which are all understandable. But the alternative media is feeding their innate hostilities. The alternative media is feeding them information to get them hostile and angry. And they call this an awakening. That people are, quote unquote, waking up to the New World Order and all the things, the abuses of government and what's going on to subject people in not only the world, but here in America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, to subject them to tyranny. And they're trying to say, we have to do something to put a stop to this or we're going to live in tyranny. Well, the book of Revelation, I believe, gives us a very clear picture of everything that's going to happen. And in that clear picture, there's no mention of any of these nations that now exist on the planet making it through that tribulation to survive and live on in the world to come. It is all going to be destroyed because it is all falling, falling, falling. Alternative media is feeding the innate hostilities and preying upon the fears of the people. This is a conflict that will not be settled with guns. This is a conflict that will not be settled with the revolutions that we've known in this world over and over and over, to shed blood upon blood upon blood to accomplish absolutely nothing. The blood that has been shed that has accomplished everything is the blood of the Son of God. With his blood, he purchased us. With his blood, he purchased this entire planet. It belongs to him, and those who belong to him have inherited this earth. The wicked are still here, but this planet belongs to God and his people, and you have a right to be here. You have a right to live free of fear. You have a right to live provided for. And when you trust God, you will have those things. Jesus said, if you have food, if you have clothes, and a roof over your head, pardon my paraphrase, with these things be content. And since I've placed my trust in God, I have never, ever, and I'm talking over the course of years, I've never gone without food. I've never gone without a place to live, and I've never gone without clothes on my back. Sometimes the times were good, sometimes the times were skimpy, but God always provided. I've never been in a place of fear, because I got to know God and I got to know his love, and belief and trust in him cast out the fear in my heart. Not to say that the devil doesn't come and try to convince me sometimes that I have something to be worried about. He does that, and I have to wrestle and I have to pray about those things just like anyone else. But God always shows me that he's faithful and trustworthy, and that my fears are irrational if I entertain them even for a second. Any fear, any worry, any concern, it's an irrational worry, fear, concern, because God is, and God is good, and you can trust him. Thanks be to Jesus. The mark of the beast is already in place. Those who trust in the world, the governments, the money, all of this stuff, this system, those whose eyes are not focused on Jesus and his kingdom that is coming, they already have the mark of the beast in their heart, even if there isn't a stamp or a chip in their hand or in their forehead or whatever. In their forehead is their brain, and they already believe the things that are necessary to have the mark of the beast. Their hands are doing the work that show what they believe. That God can't be trusted, and you have to trust in what you can do for yourself, and you have to trust in what we can do for ourselves through government and money and all these things. I think one of the surprises, I just feel it coming, and I'm not a prophet in any way. I know that I'm not a prophet. My friend of mine said something to me that made a lot of sense, because I talk a lot, and maybe some people think that I think I'm a prophet, but I'm not. There's a difference between being right and a prophet, and I believe that I'm right. And what I've never encountered is someone who could show me how I'm wrong, or that cared to. So what I think I see coming, just from analyzing, and just like somebody analyzes a game of sports and makes a prediction about someone's next move. There's been talk of how to fix monetary policy in the world, and for years now there's been this piece of legislation that was written, and I don't believe it's ever been before the House or the Senate in our Congress, but it's about monetary reform. And the monetary reform essentially is to a currency issued by Congress, which the Constitution gives them the power to issue the currency, to issue a debt-free currency. It'll be a hoax, because anything that is not built upon Jesus Christ is going to fail, because the reality is that God exists and God can be trusted. God is a provider, and no one needs to worry about having anything. In a universe that is infinite, in a universe where there are so many hundreds of billions of galaxies with so many hundreds of billions of planets waiting for us, created by a God who creates things out of nothing, who created food out of thin air when his son raised a few fishes and a few loaves of bread to bless them. There is just going to be everything you need. Everywhere, there will never be a time where you're going to have to go out and find and hunt and work for what you need. That is not the universe God created for us. So, in this monetary policy that I feel like it's coming, like this is probably they're demonizing the bankers right now, but that's just a step in their whole process. You have these people who have obviously been guided by the devil over these centuries, because if you study and research the history of the bankers, this has been a concerted effort on the parts of many generations of people to orchestrate a plan to create such an unfair and crooked and wicked system of money that enslaves the world to debt. All just to bring it out into the open and demonize these people who will never see justice in man's court, of course. Only to say, well, the great solution is a debt-free currency system. But here we are just going to be trusting in ourselves, and it'll all divulge very rapid, or not divulge, but it'll all degrade and disintegrate very rapidly into war, because there's no trust in this world. Why? Because we don't trust God. And if you can find no one outside of yourself that you can trust, then you will trust yourself. And since there is no one else outside of yourself that you can trust except for God, if you don't trust in him, you're going to trust in yourself, which is an abomination from the start. Because you're not trustworthy to be your own provider, to be your own God. Only God can be that. Only God can do that. This world does not have that. So whatever we do that we think is going to be so great is going to be shown to be so dark. The economic collapse is a mathematical certainty. At some point, it's going to happen. Or it just turns into a game of folly, which it already is. But the move is to crash this economy based on debt, to institute a new economy based on freedom of debt. But you still got to go work for it. That's the curse. You know, when God said, and I have to be quick here because I'm running out of time. God said to Adam and Eve, they could eat whatever they want. And Satan said to Eve, did he say you could not eat whatever you wanted? And he said that if we could eat whatever we want, but if we eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, then we shall surely die. And he said, oh no, you won't surely die. So Satan enters into this campaign of accusing God of being a liar and withholding truth, which is essentially a campaign to break man's trust in God. And when God found Eve and Adam hiding from him, he said, why are you hiding? Well, we were naked and we hid from you. Well, who told you you were naked? That was an invitation to enter into a conversation that they did not take. They could have figured it out right then and there, but they decided not to. And so we've come down to the point where we abandoned God as a provider 6,000 years ago. And we're still going to try to provide for ourselves one last time with some brilliant monetary policy that sounds so good and so fair, but it's still the same curse. Because God said, look, if you're not going to trust in me, then you're going to have to work for yourself, to provide for yourself. It's a curse that you bring upon yourself.